Pakistan is passing through a difficult time. Thousands have been killed and millions have been displaced as a result of devastating flood. Today we are joined by U.S. Special Representative to Afghanistan and Pakistan, Ambassador Holbrook, to discuss this situation. Ambassador, thank you very much for being with us today.
I wish we were together, Sami, on a more auspicious occasion, but I appreciate the chance to talk to you today.
The news which are coming from Pakistan are very bad. The flood has caused devastation, thousands have been killed, and millions have been displaced. And U.S. as a major ally, tell us what the United States government is doing at this time to help Pakistani people.
Well, first of all, before I answer your question, let me say that President Clinton, President Obama, Secretary Clinton, and everyone else in the United States government is stricken with this situation, and we are fully seized of it. We are working very, very hard to help your country, but it is an overwhelming catastrophe. I have been telling people here in Washington and around the United States that this situation affects more people than the earthquake of 2005, although casualties have been less so far. And it affects more people than Haiti, although casualties have been less so far. As soon as it occurred, we set up a task force here. General Petraeus sent helicopters from Afghanistan into Pakistan. We have a large contingent of American helicopters on an American military vessel headed for Karachi now in order to get those helicopters in. We've been in constant touch with your government at every level, from your president and your prime minister on down. Secretary Clinton talked to Prime Minister Gilani. I've talked to Foreign Minister Qureshi. General Petraeus has talked to General Kayani. We will do everything we can. We are also trying to mobilize American public opinion to support this. We have a telephone number that I was looking for my phone to show it to you, but I left it in my office. But we have a special phone number that if you can, you put the word SWAT. This only works in the U.S., not in Pakistan, but I think the people of Pakistan would be interested in this. You text in SWAT for SWAT, and then you send to 50555 in the U.S., and that takes $10 to the refugee relief, and you pay it in your monthly phone bill. And Secretary Hillary Clinton was the first person to do that, and we've all done it, and we're trying to raise money that way. We're talking to a lot of Hollywood and entertainment people to get more public awareness. And meanwhile, we have shipped thousands of tons of food in. Our helicopters have rescued over 1,000 people already, and once the weather clears, we'll rescue many more. So there's no limit to what we're going to try to do to help your country. Last, we are going to other countries and mobilizing them. We don't think the rest of the world has done enough so far, and especially the OIC, Organization of Islamic Countries, who haven't done anything so far that I'm aware of. And we've got to get the oil countries of the Gulf to support you more.
What do you think, Ambassador, if you look at the magnitude of the problem, and then if you look at the response of the international community, as you just mentioned, we did not see much movement. Why is that?
Well, I can only speak for the United States, and certainly you agree that the United States has done a lot. Almost everything that's been done by the international community has been American so far. And I hope that shows the Pakistani people that we are Pakistan's enduring friends. Where's China? The public opinion polls show that China is the most popular country in Pakistan. Well, we've done far more for your country than other countries, including China, so far. I'd like to see China step up to the plate. I'd like to see the Gulf step up to the plate. What about your friends in Iran? Let's see some support for Pakistan. We're calling all the countries we can. We're really pushing. Now, let me just say one more thing. a flood doesn't have the instant impact of an earthquake. So the response in 2005 was more rapid because an earthquake is a huge catastrophe. It happens in a second, it's over, then you start rebuilding. But the flood is hard to understand. There are floods all the time. And at first people see a headline that says floods in Pakistan. They say, well, that happens every year. Now people are beginning to wake up to the fact that this is the worst flood in at least 80 years in Pakistan.
You mentioned about a U.S. ship heading towards Karachi with the helicopters. Can you be more specific in the information? How many helicopters this ship will have and what they'll be doing?
Do you know, I honestly don't know the number, but I think, you know, I think it's a decent number of helicopters. They will be assisting in relief. They'll be evacuating people. They'll be ferrying food in. They will do whatever the Pakistani government asks them to do. We're in very close touch with your disaster relief coordinator, General Nadeem, who was so successful in 2005 and who we have enormous respect for. And we're just waiting for the word. Your government, the Pakistani government, needs to be very clear with what it's asking for. The UN has now issued its first appeal, an initial $450 million. We will contribute more money for that. We will do anything we can to help.
You just said that Pakistani government will be very clear in asking what they are looking for. Have they spoken to you what they need?
Oh, yeah.
Basically?
We are meeting around the clock. I spent 5 hours on this problem yesterday. As we're doing this interview, my deputy, Dan Feldman, is chairing a meeting of the Pentagon, the White House, AID, State Department, all divisions to see what we can do. One thing I would like to suggest to your viewers, may I, Sami?
Yes, please go ahead.
I would like to suggest to all your viewers in Pakistan watching on Geo that they send emails and messages to their relatives in the United States and the United Kingdom immediately, telling the Pakistani diaspora in the United States and Britain to send money to international relief organizations and to private charities immediately. There is a huge outpouring of opportunities. For example, even a Pakistani American who can't afford a big gift could do the texting to SWAT 50555 and send $10 immediately to the United Nations Commission on Refugees, which is the most important organization out there. So let's have more support from the Pakistani communities living overseas.
The news which is coming from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, where the war on terror is focused, this provincial administration is telling us that all number of bridges have been washed away,
yeah,
and communication system is struck badly.
Yeah.
So tell us how this supplies to the NATO forces are going through, and do you think this disruption in communication will be affecting war on terror over there?
Well, on the first part of your question, I don't know the answer because no one's been able to get in. And until the rain stopped, and I think they were still raining yesterday, it's hard to get in. But that's why helicopters are so critical. The bridges are out, the roads are out, and the communications are out. So helicopters are the only way to bring in supplies and get people. People are stranded on the roofs of their houses, and they have to be pulled out. It's very, very difficult and dangerous work. As for the second part of your question on the militants, you know, I'm not going to even worry about that right now. Everyone has been affected. Let's all band together. I've read some silly reports in the press that the militants are taking advantage of this. That's not my concern right now. At least 14 million people have been affected. Let's work on those first. Everyone is a Pakistani, and let's all pull together on this.
So how you mentioned earlier that you would like to talk to OIC and other international countries. How are you going to mobilize them?
Well, we're in direct, our ambassadors are in direct touch. We've summoned their ambassadors into the Department of State. We're doing everything we can.
And now coming to another issue at this time when the country is hit by worst ever floods, we see a controversy going on between the media and the government. Does it bother you? I mean, what is your response to that?
My first response is, I've seen this movie before. It was called Katrina and New Orleans. It's natural that people are going to be impatient, but I think that the Pakistani government, and General Nadim is a terrific leader on this. Prime Minister Gilani has gone out and visited people. I'm not going to criticize the government. They're dealing with an overwhelming catastrophe for which no one could have anticipated. And these things happen. Let's stop pointing fingers at each other and all get to work to save people who are fighting for their lives.
But before this controversy started, the Pakistani media said, then a lot of community leaders came out, and they also criticized the President Zardari for going abroad at that time. Even, excuse me, international media did say that. What is your take on the whole situation?
I'm not going to get into an argument over these trivial things. Your country is in a crisis on top of all the other problems, energy and water and all the other things that we've tried so hard to help Pakistan with. And all I think we should do is help the people of Pakistan who are in exposed positions. I'm not going to get into a minor press squabble with the government, particularly when we have the same things here. You live in Washington. You've seen this kind of thing. People tried to criticize President Obama for the oil slick, the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. But in the end, it made no difference. The oil slick was a crisis, and finally BP got it under control. This is a crisis, and we have to focus on the crisis.
And just lastly, I have to ask this question. Right now, two major channels in Pakistan, that they're off air, their transmission is off air in the city of Karachi, and then the newspapers are also being burned, and this controversy is going to take an ugly shape. So what is your take on that? Would you be talking to anyone to give any advice of tolerance?
Ambassador Patterson has been deeply involved in monitoring that situation, and I'll let the embassy speak to that. I want to just focus right now, with your permission, on this incredible catastrophe.
And coming back to this catastrophe, what message from your country you would like to give to the Pakistani people?
I have three messages. First, America is doing everything we can under the leadership of President Obama and Secretary Clinton. Secondly, we are pushing other countries to do much, much more. And third, I would appeal again to all Pakistanis listening to this broadcast who have relatives in the United States, Great Britain, or elsewhere. Send messages to your relatives saying, send money to international organizations. Text SWAT to the number 50555 and send $10 to the UN Refugees Commission. Do anything you can. That's the best way to mobilize support, is the millions of Pakistanis living abroad. And we are doing that ourselves through the America-Pakistan Foundation. And my final word, Sami, is our hearts are with you. We are all doing everything we can, and we will do everything more we can, because the U.S.-Pakistani relationship is incredibly important to us on its own merits, not because of Afghanistan, not because of other countries, but because of the people of Pakistan.
Ambassador, thank you very much for talking to us. Thank you.
You're welcome, Sami.